our Risk and Assurance Committee meeting for the 16th of June 2026. I'd like to declare our hui open, and kindly, Mana has agreed to open our hui.
Kia ora, e te tia mana, rino kia koutou, kurangatira te nā koutou, he karakia te whakatuwhera. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mākina kina ki ta, kia mātautau ki tai. E hiake ana te atākuna, he tio, he huka, he haumu. Haumu e, ui e tae ki te. I tell my team, I often say use that karakia when we have our staff together. And I always say that reminds me of local government. It feels like local government. The cold winds from the west and the cold wind from the south, the onshore and offshore winds, and then the dawn. And the ice and the snow and the promise of a new day. I just feel like that's local government to a T, and possibly with our subjects that we're talking today too. So that's why I kind of like that particular karakia.
Maybe without the promise of a new day.
Well, excellent. E te rangatira mō tō tātou karakia I te ata nei. Kia ora. So thank you, Manaia, for opening our hui with karakia. So welcome to me, Ash, elected members, to Kaimahi staff members, and also anyone that is curiously watching us online or potentially coming in person. We welcome you. In terms of our agenda, the first item is any apologies or leave of absence. I think we're good too, so nothing to move there. In terms of urgent business, you may have seen from Steph that we have a late public excluded agenda item which we need to move in seconds to consider in public excluded. We have the Ash moving, we have Councillor Andrew Segan. In this case, the recommendation is up behind us to say that at this meeting is a major item not on the agenda pursuant to section 46(7)(ab) of the Rokoima 1987 due to the item being urgent in nature having arose following the production of the agenda. The committee's next meeting is not scheduled until October 2026. So giving context to that, all those in favour please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Mana carried. Thank you very much for that, Ben. Much appreciated, and thank you very much, Steph, for all the work that you have done to make that happen, as well as Manaia and team in terms of the reporting that we will see later. Declarations of interest on the agenda. Steph, do I still need to move my waters? Declaration of interest?
We're not.
So there are none. So that's okay. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of minutes from our, feels like a long time ago, 24th of February 2026 film. Any items of that to be addressed if you were at the meeting, because I know that some of us were not there. So, are there any? So I'm happy to move the minutes. Councillor Bruce is seconding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Mana carried. Thanks, thanks. The next item on our agenda, I think, is our chair. Oh, it's actually my chair report. So, in terms of that chair report, I'm just sharing and also recognising that there's a lot going on in local government at the moment. And so thank you, elected members, for continuing to serve your communities and local base, no matter what comes at you from front and everywhere else it seems to be coming from. I also talked about a couple of forums that I attend through the audit office, and just an opportunity for us to reflect on how we demonstrate delivering value for money to ratepayers, and also decision making, considering potential amalgamation, and making sure that we don't put our communities in a space whereby we might spend money and that might not be wise spend the money depending on our future. But a lot of times it's crystal ball gazing. Are there any questions or comments in relation to the chair report? That's Andrew.
Yes, I have one, Madam Chair. You're talking about the AG forum with your Audit and Risk Committee and talking about internal audits. I'm just wondering, obviously internal audits are done for assurance. Is there a possibility, and I don't know if it's a statutory basis, but can internal audits probably reduce the requirement about external audits, especially with the costs that we're looking at for external audits? I know we're going to talk about audits a little bit later on in the meeting too, but I just thought it's a nice way to segue through your report.
Great question in that space, and I think I can see Renee in the room, but based on my audit experience, There are standards that external auditors have to follow if they rely on the work of internal audit. And from my understanding, it's quite onerous in terms of what needs to be done. So although there's an intention to rely on that particular work, there's a Renee, would that be fair? That there's a checklist that you would need to go through, and there might not necessarily be the savings that you might want to achieve, especially if there's, as an example, if the internal audit covered fraud, that doesn't necessarily mean that reduces the amount of fraud work that the external auditors need to do. Renee, would you like to comment on that? Anything different?
I think that's good.
So I hear you in terms of the need for efficiency and delivering better to our communities, but I would be wary of replacing internal audit with external audit purely because of what they need to follow from an auditing standards perspective.
Yeah, I wasn't sort of meaning fully replace it. I was sort of thinking maybe instead of an annual external audit, maybe it's once every triennium. You do your internal audit every year, and then once every triennium as an external audit, which serves the workload, serves the cost. But I don't know what the statutory basis is around on that as well.
Yeah. At the moment, there is a legislative requirement for local government to have their annual reports and long-term plans audited. Sorry, I'll stick to the annual report. Annual reports audited on an annual basis. So legislatively, we need to provide the information. They need to audit it, and until that legislation changes, we're not in a position to have that level of efficiency that you're looking for.
Cool.
Not saying that we don't want it, but that's what the legislation states at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's not a criticism on you either, Renee. It's just me just trying to be more efficient.
No, just a comment. I ticked and underlined a comment about navigating an endless storm.
Oh. And recognising it can feel like
Seems like it.
almost on the day at the moment is the sentiment that I've been hearing. So,
Yes,
which is why I continue to appreciate the work that elected members do for our community and the Kaimai in terms of the supporting work that they do. If there are no further comments or questions, I'm happy to, move my own report. We've got Secretary Jane seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Okay. All those carried. Our next item is 8.2, which is our Chief Executive update. Over to you, Manai, for brief comments, and then we'll like questions.
Brief comments. Well, it's a continuation of the theme of getting what's going on. Some major pieces of work underway in the organisation. We've had legislative change, and we raised the risk that we might not be able to respond appropriately to advise council. I'm really delighted in how our team has dealt with legislative reform and council for allowing us to work through that, and hopefully council satisfied with the submissions the team made. The local government reform, of course, was unexpected in terms of timing, not necessarily in terms of the direction. But I guess my underlying theme is and I've created my own stresses too in terms of for the organisation, in terms of reorganisation structure, and that's about trying to position us better for the future, and even with local government reform going on. So I think that the main thing the executive team is trying to do amongst all of this is ensure we have clarity of council's priorities, our legislative requirements, and balancing the load. And that means, in some cases, accepting that some things may not happen, but trying to be very transparent with council about that. So I am really delighted with a number of things that we've progressed this year. There are some things I'd like to have done more of, but at the moment we're in a very much a balancing act in terms of trying to get everything that we need to get done, the priorities. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Any sort of if there's any sort of variations in regards to that against or especially financial stuff, budget versus actual, how will that be flagged? Is that going to be flagged in some sort of variance report? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So our financial report comes to you, and at the moment overall it looks, as we've reported in our last report to council, there's one area that's over, and that's in our higher than there's always variations, but wastewater is one of those areas. We've had some unique things happen this year, but the variance reporting occurs and the variance monitoring occurs. I think the main thing that comes out of the financial reports for me is just and it's come out of project reporting too, is we're behind with our projects. not at the level that we want it to be. But financially, we still have a strong financial position. But absolutely, any variances will be reported through to council through the financial report.
Cool. And also in your report, you mentioned that we're outside our limits for our hedging portfolio. I'm just wondering how's that tracking?
Yeah, that's according to plan. We got the policy amended last year. I recall that was to position ourselves for the retirement or the transfer of debt to Waikato Waters. So the instruments that were recommended to us to enable us to do that, the financial instruments, were different than we normally do, and the terms for those were different. But that meant that the transfer was going to be significantly easier. So it was a deliberate strategy that we presented to council last year, late last year, and as we showed, it is tracking as we expected. We've probably got lower debt than we were expecting because our capital projects are not as advanced, but the mechanism is still positioned to enable us to transfer that debt to Waikato Waters. And then we'll come back into compliance.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, apologies for short memory. I do remember.
No.
Well, a lot of the members are thinking of some questions. In the report, it mentions higher insurance costs. Can you speak to that just briefly, given the last update we had quite a robust audit around insurance and we understood that the premiums were coming down?
Yes, and so this relates particularly, it came through the financial reporting, relates to our community facilities area. So, and this is property insurance mainly, that in community facilities areas, pools, libraries, etc. So overall, our premium for the year was actually down. So in total, the council paid for property insurance, but actually in the community facilities area, it was actually higher than budget. And even within activities within the community facilities area, example housing, EPH housing insurance costs were down, but owner-occupier was very much higher. So the comment in the financial report relates to the community facilities activity. The previous reporting that our overall premium was under is true. It's just how the pie was cut or split.
So you're talking like on a total thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't an owner occupier be responsible for their own insurance?
We insure it and then we pass that cost on to the tenant the owner does pay for it. It's just that we organise the insurance for those ones because they're connected units.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that they're all insured. So,
How many of those have got left?
we've got units in Morrinsville. I just
And still here.
I think we're out of Tiara now.
Yeah, Chitra. Yeah, because I can remember the conversation years ago.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how many.
That's a good. That's when you said it. Yeah.
My second comment is in relation to the CapEx delivery. And so to Councillor Andrews' point, when projects are on track, how do elected members, other than the Risk and Assurance Committee, get a view that they're off track and that could have a significant impact on spending this year and following years, and impact on rates?
Well, I'm going to touch on a little bit that report because council will recall that we tried to make sure the schedule we put together this year was one that we could deliver on. So I suppose, the report identifies areas why we're not delivering. I just want to explain that very briefly. And probably the most common factor is the completeness of the business case about the project before it starts. And there's a correlation between how complete those are and whether we get projects done. I think that's what that report said generally. So what that means is, and I hate to say this, but I have to say this, I think our 26-27 project schedule was also overly ambitious. Complicated a little bit by the removal of waters, but and so what is the effect of that? We're pretty good at getting our renewals done. We're pretty good at getting our renewals done, which is to try and, so roading is our biggest investment in terms of renewals, and in fact that's our exemplar in terms of getting work done. They're very good. So given that we're trying to make sure that we look after the asset that we have through our renewals, it's the improvement projects that don't move as quickly as possible. Now, I'm not making excuses about that, but if you look at for example, the Matamata Playground project, which is a great project partnership with the community, that's been challenging in terms of a number of reasons, and we're behind schedule on that. But it's going to be completed. It's been wonderful. So what I'd say is the impact on an outcome basis is that some of the improvements the council wants to see for the community are not delivered as fast as they would like, and you will know that. I could reel off a number of them. Lawrence Recreation Ground, for example. From a financial perspective, what it does do is it to an extent we are rating people for interest costs for borrowing and for potential depreciation costs. Depreciation not so high because we don't depreciate till the following year, rate for it, I mean. But the interest cost, we are putting that in the rates. So we are not having that program at a realistic level means we are charging more for rates than we should.
And thank you for mentioning that, because that was one part of it, and the other part of it was that with delaying projects, generally costs go up, and therefore potentially costs even more in the future. So just trying to highlight that. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from elected members on the CE report? And thank you, Manaya, for your responses in that space, and I continue to like to see your CE report. So for me, as an example, I don't get to live in elected members' shoes, I guess, every day, and it gives me an opportunity to be updated in terms of what's going on. I appreciate it. I'm happy to move the report, but please have a seconder. Next, we have Councillor Andrew seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, will carry. For the team, we're going to move to item 7.1, which is the risk appetite statement, and I'm guessing we're going to be seeing Ken. Good morning, Ken.
Morning.
A brief comments from you, Ken, that would be fantastic. And maybe Ellie, I'm not sure. And then we'll open for comments and questions from the members. And again, thank you very much for being important.
Okay, good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors. So risk appetite statement. So look, I do just have some introductory comments, and then I'm happy to take questions. So look, this is the first risk appetite statement that we're looking for this council to formally adopt. Look, I guess I'm indicating here that this is a really significant step in the risk management journey. The statement does align with good practice. So good practice in local government and the wider public sector risk management space is that you do the governing body does clearly articulate risk appetite, and that's what this statement is looking to do. Embedding this into the organisation will take some time. Will require some guidance. But look, a really good first step in terms of adopting this. Want to point out, as the report does, and in fact as the appetite statement itself does, that this is not a rigid decision-making formula. So look, it's the way it's been positioned is that it's not overly prescriptive. And hopefully you've seen that if you've read the individual risk appetite statements. But look, what it is designed to do is to basically give some really good guidance when decisions are being made and when risks are being assessed. But look, it should guide rather than dictate. It does not replace some professional judgment or elected member discretion, etc. This will be integrated into the risk management framework. So I guess you're seeing a part of the equation this morning. This is the articulation of the risk appetite, but there is a risk management framework document being drafted up, which will basically provide further guidance as to how we actually apply this thing. So that's important. I think it's also important to note that this will evolve over time. So this is the first crack of it. But look, over time, as the maturity of the organisation increases, and as we get used to applying this thing, it will continuously improve. Now, I do just want to note that rereading this, I have actually, in terms of continuous improvement, and rereading this, I have actually noticed that that there is a little bit of a blue in it, and so I just want to point that out to you right now. So look, 9.3. So that is on what page is it? It's page 13 of the agenda. 9.3 is the project health and safety risk. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but that is talking about that risk being averse. Now, if you refer to the table in table 7, and if you've read this really well, you'll notice that the table is actually showing averse to conservative, and that is designed to be consistent with 8.1. So look, so 8.1 and 9.3, the risk appetite statement, it's talking about exactly the same thing, health and safety risk. They should be consistent with each other. In the table, they are consistent, but look, I do just need to update the wording of 9.3 to make it much more consistent with 8.1. And look, what that's looking to do effectively is to differentiate serious harm from other potential harm elements. So look, in a few minutes we'll be asking you to, as a committee, to recommend this through to council. I would suggest that when it goes through to council, it goes through with 9.3 updated. Okay, thank you, Chair. Those are the opening comments. I'm very happy to take any questions.
Just obviously, it's something that council, to identify about taking a little bit more risk, and because I think we've suffered over the years from a little bit of paralysis by over analysis sort of thing, and but I just concern, even it could be, I'm just looking at the scale item 6.1, and even a conservative then equates to a risk level of moderate. And I think if we're using those sort of terminologies, or even if staff were doing an evaluation, and then I was to look at that and then see moderate, it sounds still quite, like, I shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? Like, moderate risk is quite still fairly high, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not low, but I'm not sure it could be medium low or something like that, because I just see where I see moderate, and whether it's a staff member looking at something that they're being considered, but which is still a moderate risk level there. It's, it's almost like, why would you do it? It's just probably a little bit dense around the wording, but you know what I mean? Like, it's if you're adverse, it's low, but if you go to the next step, then you're taking a moderate risk, It's,
yes. Yeah.
Or do you perhaps change it to say adverse, or adverse is negligible, conservative is low?
Yeah.
Moderate.
Yeah. Yeah, so through the chair, I mean, we do use risk management generally uses that 5-point scale, and if you're looking at that end column on page 5, so we've got the low, moderate, high, very high, and extreme. I know in some other cases it's actually pitched, and Miresh, this might help you. Sometimes it's pitched as very low, moderate, high, very high. So I mean, that's I would have to change that right through the framework, but we could do that if that helped. Still very much the 5-point scale, but it's just slightly different terminology.
Yeah, it's just a terminology, but I think it's just I was to think been changing from being adverse, my stance was adverse, to tick all the boxes, and everyone was happy ever after sort of thing. But if I was to go to that next step that we were talking about, and taking a little bit more risk,
yes,
thing that can happen, and I look at it and go, oh, hang on, but that's a score of moderate risk, that's, I don't know, it's just
Yeah, so look, I could certainly suggest that, like I say, we'd have to change this throughout the framework, but it's possible to do that. Yeah, you know, we could change that scale, the terminology in there to very low, yeah, moderate, high, and very high. And they, you know, other councils do that.
Yeah, it's just the wording, but you know what it signifies. It just means
We've gone through quite a few iterations over the last few years. I just can't bring it onto you at the moment, but I find the iteration acceptable, right? And I found the, you know, the adverse and the conservative point of view, and the charts starting to be a little bit more understandable than what we've had over 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So I think there's a progress. I still think we're too wordy. I think there's, mind you, that's my own personal view. Not so much words, but just too many of them.
I just wanted to gauge where we're at, team. So we've got comments in terms of re-looking at the scale to something that seems more intuitive to the team, but we need to sense check whether that's viewed similarly across the wider team. And then the second thing, the comment about it being wordy at the moment, but doesn't feel like you want it to significantly change, and keeping in mind Ken's original comment that it's a start of a journey, and various iterations will land at a stronger space once we've started to utilise it. Where will be that?
I think from the wordy point of view, it's that it's stated, you know, early on, and then it comes in and it's repeated. I think the overall statement could be shortened and still contain the same data.
A good feedback. Can I just remind us as a team to put our buttons on, so there's always people watching online can hear us everything. Thanks, team. We might have a technical issue. So
Let's get these. I don't think we plugged in on the side.
You've been censored.
Been censored.
fair enough.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to follow on from Bruce though. So firstly, in terms of the iterations of the terms, I can live with it either way. And Bruce, I agree with you on my first instance. Jeepers, can't this be shorter? But when I read through it, I felt in the end that probably the 6 and 7 were pretty good at a governance level of summarising where we were at with everything. And then in terms of a workability perspective, so when people are actually trying to embed this into the organisation, that's where everything subsequently comes into play much more significantly. So I hear what you're saying, but I was just reflecting that, you know, in actual fact, a lot of the downstream stuff may be useful from an operational perspective. Just an observation. Yeah.
So I'd like to make a comment about that, because I think in terms of the comments about the journey, what I am seeing in the organisation is we've been working through this process, and Ken and Kelly leading us is more and more of the risk framework and risk considerations getting too closer to the coalface, so that people can reflect. We've now got people reporting on various measures to reinforce the fact that a number of our risks are very high, and that's all part of an understanding for our organisation and a realisation that these things should be considered. I know the Mayor's point. I know you have signalled to me as a council that you have a particular direction. And so for me, part of this is, to your point, Deputy Mayor, it's about taking this now and aligning with our decisions in the field and making sure we're in sync. So if you look at conservative, as I see it, that might be a position where staff are looking at a risk and an issue and saying, oh, this is conservative. But I would hope that they understand the direction that we're taking council. Council is sent for us about being more enabling, being more efficient. So to me, I want to see that as a flag at that level to us to say, hey, we might be able to sync here. And then we can talk that through with the staff. That's happening already, can I say, in the consents area, although you may not realise it. There are already discussions about risk appetite and how do we get risk into the decision making very close to the coalface. So long-winded answer. I'm enjoying the fact that this is adding to our armory. It isn't. We will evolve with this, but I think myself and the executive team have a clear understanding of what council wants to do, and we're going to try and marry this up so that we don't want. And as I think Ken's pointed out, these are guidance; they're not an absolute. So it's really understanding what you want and getting it into this document is great for our staff, and then us applying it, making it work in the field is our challenge. But I look forward to that challenge. I just want to reiterate to you, I believe I've got a strong understanding of the direction you want us to take. I really do. So I don't mind if you change those words. I don't think that changes that picture that we'll give to our staff. That's the big challenge for us, operationalising it.
Does your button? No, it's not there.
Yeah, I get. It just reminds me, I should have preempted my comment with really, again, following on from Bruce, that this has been a long process. And I feel, I guess it's my learning as well, because when I read this one, I'm like, you know what, we're getting there, and I can absolutely see how this is going to improve the risk, the way that the organisation operates. So really that sense of like momentum and going in the right direction is what I should have preempted with. It's great to see. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, no, following on from your process, it's amazing.
Huge progress.
Amazing. And going to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how this is going to affect the culture of the organisation. Anyway, that was just a observation. Andrew. Yeah.
Look, personally, I was surprised that we didn't have one in the first place. But I'm more than happy for this to be put through as is at the moment, on the understanding that it is a working document and it can be fine-tuned over time, wording or otherwise. And I suppose the important thing about it is the consistency it's applied and the trending data as it moves through its implementation.
Yeah, so sorry to get hung up on the wording, but I think it is actually, I could be totally off mark here, but I think it is important because I see that as, I would like to see it as like very low adverse and then low. The reason I say that is, but if I put myself in a staff member's position and we're trying to empower them to make a decision, right? And we've even said to them, you know, look, if it goes wrong, you know, we've got your backs because, you know, take that thing. If I was a staff member and I was thinking of going from adverse to conservative, but in the wording there, it's a moderate risk. That's an admission that you're, you know, there's still quite a bit of risk there. Moderate, it's still pretty likely, it's pretty high risk, as opposed to low risk. If it's easier to defend, if you said, the reason I made that call is because it fell into a low risk category, which is easy to defend. To go ahead with it, and it's, you know, you're taking a moderate risk, is probably not going to. It'll be easier for them to just be adverse, like we always have been. It's just my thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, I can't do that. No, a little bit of potato, to be honest. I hear where you're coming from, Barry, in terms of, because at the end of the day, we wanted to empower staff to make decisions to get on with stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I'm reasonably relaxed about the definitions that are there now. But it's just about, you know, I suppose, staff being able to take decisions. Because, you know, there's always some degree of risk, isn't there? But it's just in terms of how do we, in this case, how do we define it, and then how does that impact on the operational side of things?
Can I have one question for you? Do you think within the training suite that you'll roll out in terms of the implementation or the embeddedness of this particular appetite statement, that it will become very clear to staff members what they should or should not be doing in that space and potentially negate what Mayor Ash is saying? Or do you think it's going to take such a long time for that to happen that we need to change the wording now to align with that cardinal thought?
Oh, look, I guess I'm not too worried either way. I think we just need to lock down the wording and then apply that right through. And look, to be fair, I think if we were contemplating this change, I think now would be the time to do it. Because we're still working on the risk management framework. Tomorrow we're going to turn our mind to refreshing the top risks. And we've got the 5-point. In fact, this is the 5-point scale we use for those. But look, as we work up that document to come to the next meeting, we could do that with the refreshed scale. So if there is, I was going to say if there is appetite for change, if there's a desire to change that scale, then I think we should do it now. And I don't see any problem with doing that.
I was just going to make the comment when the executive team reviewed this. So if we look at, for example, 8.3 legal and regulatory compliance, where we've got adverse to conservative, and we mentioned that because we know there are certain bits of legislation that we know we're not complying with, and we said we need to make sure that we don't, and we've accepted, and I think that's been quite transparent. Dare I say it, on the schedule put to council, even if it's lost and all that. We're very conscious of it. But we felt that the examples that were given in 8.3 about how you would interpret it, and if you might want to look at that wording, and maybe, because that's where I think the rubber starts hitting the road for us, for the staff. So we've got legal and regulatory compliance, which is a topical one. We've got adverse to conservative. And then I just thought that that those notes there started to give us the sense of, so that if there is a minor or technical non-compliance, which I think in some instances of what we're talking about for some of the cases that have been put to me, that's not actually out of the realm of possibility under that categorisation. But I guess what part of this process for me is reflecting your expectations. So if we make the change to the wording at the top, it's still translating it down to here about what are those parameters. So I felt quite comfortable with those parameters there. I thought they were reflecting what we as an executive team think you want us to do. Let's not get hung up on every little thing when it comes to, for example, regulatory compliance. But if it's a material thing, well, your expectation would be. So I just wanted to point out that that's how we as an executive looked at this document to see that it was going to be workable for us. But happy to take your direction.
While we mull over that, I've got a couple of other questions on the risk appetite statement. The first is, once it's embedded, then when will we get any level of reporting on the effectiveness of this to how we make our decisions? The next would be on page 9 of 98 of the appendix, all of the attachments for the financial area 8.6. The triggers of things would be a variance exceeding tolerance of 10 to 15%, and a major would be 25%. Is that across all of the financial statements? Is that across the line items? I don't have an understanding of that. And if we go outside of appetite, where does it go to? Does it go to the DLT? Does it come to this committee? Does it go to council?
Yes. So look, good questions. In regard to the later one, so look, I guess that's guidance that's reflected there. That will be specified better in the fuller risk management framework document. Yeah, in terms of in terms of those triggers. So that's the intention there. Yep. In terms of so your first question was about the reporting and how do we see this? Look, I think it would be pretty soon. So so look, already in the top risks, when we set the top risks for the current year, we did actually specifically set an appetite for each of the 11 risks. So all of the reporting since that point has been on that basis. So when you see the top risks, you're seeing what the top risk is, related to what the appetite is. So you'll start seeing that reporting across anything else, all other areas. So for instance, later in this agenda, you're looking very much at some project risk reporting for some key projects that are happening. Once this appetite is locked in, the reporting in future immediately will be picking up. This is where the residual risk is sitting, and this is the appetite that's sitting against. So so look, it could be pretty quickly.
Because on page 15 of the attachments, it says in terms of application and decision making, appropriate approvals must be obtained when a decision falls outside appetite. So I don't have an understanding of if I'm a staff member, what do I do? So thank you, that clarity is good.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, I don't see too much long information technology and what have you. We'll test that stuff or later on.
Yes.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see how we test it against that.
Thank you. So I too, alongside Deputy Mayor James, should have prefaced by saying I thank the team in terms of the journey that we've come on, and I agree with Councillor Andrew there. I would have expected that we would have had a risk appetite statement, but the good thing is we nearly have one now. So appreciation to the team for all the work that they've done. The one final issue that we need to decide on is coming back to Mayor Ash's original point, whether there's appetite around the table to leave it as is in terms of the risk appetite statement, or to change in line with the very low, etc. So can I just get a sense check on that from committee members where they're at on this?
I'm happy to leave it.
Happy?
Happy to leave it. Happy to leave it.
Oh, okay.
As long as there's a consistent application of it that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the same, right? Like, so as long as it's consistent, it doesn't matter to me. All of which is to say, I understand that Mayor Ash has a strong feeling about changing the wording, in which case I'm happy to support that, right? For me, it doesn't change the outcomes. So I'm happy, all of which is happy to support Ash, but that's really, it's the consistency is what I'm concerned about, and that can be achieved with either scenario. Yeah.
The only reason I'm bringing it up, I'll be straight up with you. I believe something simple as that, we're not going to achieve any change. We're just not going. Why would you, if it's worded like that? If you took that to a lawyer and said you've taken a moderate risk, or you made the decision on a low risk, there's a huge difference. And yet, I know it seems like nothing major, but I just reckon, we either want to try and, because let's face it, it's only the low risk items that we want staff to make. The things that before they would have said was adverse, we want them to go out a little bit out of the comfort zone, analyse it, and it's the low risk ones that we want them to fly through, okay? Because that's the biggest things. Obviously, the high risk and the extreme risk, well, that's different. That's off the table anyway, because, that's when Manai goes to jail or something, like that. We can't be having that. So it's the small ones, the low hanging fruit that we want to flow faster. And I just believe that with still in the understanding that they're taking a moderate risk, we'll put them off even doing it. Why you just go easier to be adverse, and that's, I think, we're achieving nothing.
So, I guess my question for Ken is, I appreciate the 5-point scale is industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
What's the downside of changing the terminology of the categories? Because to my understanding, the triggers, etc., are all remaining the same. We're just calling them something different, and it's really about that perception of understanding. Am I missing something there, or what's the downside of following through with Mayor Ash's proposal?
Look, I don't think there is any particular downside. I agree with how you just articulated it. So look, it's and as you said, consistency is a crucial thing, and as long as we're consistent right across. So we certainly cannot change this in isolation. We would have to change that 5-point scale across our framework.
Actually, I was considering logical. For the fact that it's a working document, just be to push the button, and I was probably having to back in hashtags.
Can I ask you the risk appetite scale? Would it be helpful to remove the column where it equates to risk level? Because to me, that starts to create confusion. What we want to get across to people is that if our appetite is conservative, we want to proceed with extreme reluctance. Moderate, in my view, doesn't help people.
Well, it doesn't match up, doesn't moderate.
Yeah. So can I just say, Chair, I mean, actually that end column, in my view, is pretty important to have that there, because if you can kind of visualise the table, perhaps think about that our top risk table. We are going to be setting we're basically going to be setting the appetite versus a residual risk level, and the residual risk levels will be expressed in the language that we've got in that final column. So look, I think to assist staff and to make this easy to apply, we do kind of need that final column, whatever the words are. Because that is your direct relation point with your residual risk, and the residual risks are expressed in that way.
Yeah, well, I think the end column's okay. It's just, what are we trying to achieve? And I don't achieve.
Great, thank you.
So in the fifth column, you want very low.
Or it's very low, because it is
Very low.
Yeah.
You want moderate to change to low. You want high to.
Well, that one could probably be different.
Hence why I said potato.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what directions are staff getting?
Yes.
Getting on with their.
Yeah, so Councillor, in relation to that question, the suggestion is that they just move up a tier. So the first one will become very low, the second one will become low, the third one, which is measured, that will become moderate, and then high, and then very high. So very, very high is the top of it rather than extreme. Extreme disappears, and extreme just becomes very high.
Because I think that matches up better with your risk opportunity trade-offs, the very low, no, I agree with you on that.
All right, I'm going to put a recommendation if there are no further comments. And the original recommendations are that we receive the report, we review the risk appetite statement, and we recommend that Council adopts the risk appetite statement. And somewhere in there, Steph, we need to recognise that there's appetite amongst the table to change the risk appetite rating scale from low, moderate, high, very high, to a trend to very low, low, moderate, high, very high. That direction. So the recommendation is put. I'm happy to move. Do we have a second?
So Chair, sorry, if we are building that into the recommendation, should we also build in the wording change to 9.3 that I spoke about earlier in the meeting? That's the second track.
The Ash is seconding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? All none are carried. Thanks, team. A robust debate, I should say, on something that's taken us a while to get to, but we appreciate all the work that people have done to get us in. And we wish you guys well in terms of the embeddedness of that within the organisation. So,
thank you.
Next item is 8.3, which welcome back, Ken. Again, brief comments and then open for comments and questions. So
For sure. And actually, Dave, yeah, do you want to move to this one? Okay, so look, some comments on the quarterly risk report and the risk update. So look, yeah, so first up, so page 19, if I could just draw your attention to that. So that is the work plan update. So risk maturity assessment has been carried out, and I'll actually get David to speak to that in a moment. In terms of the other two items that were on the work plan for the year, the embedding of risk management and business resilience, some good work has progressed in both of those areas. So specifically, actually the risk appetite statement that you've just seen is sitting in the first of those areas. And in the business resilience space, quite a lot of work has been done in terms of refreshing business continuity plans throughout the organisation. So that work is still progressing, but some good work has taken place. Yeah, so that's the first thing to point out. Risk maturity assessment. So David did this week. So do you just want to high level?
Yeah, sure. So we did the first risk maturity assessment on year one of the risk management program, and you'll see that in your left-hand column in the 2025s. You know, so there's a little bit of maybe ones, couple of twos. By standard, so this is a industry standard tool. It's PwC put that name on it, but they didn't make it. It's a five. It's everything with risk 5-point scale. So do you need to be a 5? Absolutely not. A 5 point, like a 5, you look at a serious investment bank and stuff like that. I keep saying I came from a Fortune 500 company, and they were a very generous 4. So 5 is maybe unobtainable, just to kind of give you that sort of that ceiling on it. So we've redone it again, same as last year, same questions. I'm assuming same executive management team. And we also do it on the tier 3 management as well, just to sort of double down, so we're not just kind of asking the top. All the results absolutely same again, very, very reflective of each other. So, and what we've got here is a story of progression. Strategy and which one is it? Systems and intelligence and culture have gone up. No, it is strategy and governance. I beg your pardon. Sorry. Thanks, mate. I'm getting old, mate. I can't speak properly. So strategy and governance and culture have now gone up to level 2. By far, I always think these are probably the most difficult ones to achieve. So this is definitely testament to the work that Ken's doing, to the executive leadership team and this committee for pushing it forward. It's very hard. You could do the culture one for years and just not make any ground on it. So that's excellent. So what I think what the point of this exercise, it gives you a good picture of where you're at, and it also informs the area of focus that we can get to. So I think, you know, the discussion so far is to try and get that level 1 up, and maybe even try and get level 3 on the board. Sorry. Now we've got Google. Yes, we've got Google. We've got the news on now. That's good.
So Dave,
that's about it. That's about what I've got really to see on that. It's a good job.
So provided we're seeing improvement, practically, what's the ultimate level you think we should be looking at between 2 and 3?
Oh, look, I mean, so if you look across other councils, definitely across like on a national level, most councils are 1s and 2s. If you're mainly 2s, you're probably, you know, at that kind of at the top end. If you can get some 3s on there, you'll definitely be leading edge. And I don't think you need to be more than a 3 for a council.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very high functional risk management sort of systems in there.
Okay. Chair, are there any questions just on that risk maturity assessment? Or I've got a few other comments I want to make.
I don't see any questions, but
Okay.
welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, you too. Thank you.
From my perspective, I've always talked about I'd like to see risk management more embedded at Matamata-Piako District Council. But I also cautioned about over-investing in this space and in terms of the value add and what it gives back to the community. So from my perspective, I don't see a 5, I don't see a 4, maybe a 3. From my perspective, I'd be happy at around a 2.5 to 3 in terms of the amount invested. Thanks. Back to you, Kim.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so look, just working through the attachment, so page 24 of the attachment report, I did just want to draw your attention to the fact that we have been, and this is very much a business resilience thing, we have done quite a lot of work in the fuel supply crisis space. So I did include a page on the report just reflecting on that. So look, and when this thing first developed, back in March, we carried out some business impact assessment work over March and April, just determining what the potential impacts were right across the business in regard to fuel supply. So the issues obviously with pricing, as well as the potential issues for on availability of fuel. So look, that work was carried out in March and April, and then we moved into some follow-up work in terms of, look, this is the impact assessment. But what about fuel resilience planning, and what about a workforce response strategy, particularly if we got to the point where the pricing was either way too high or the fuel just wasn't available and we actually had to change our business practice. So look, a lot of work's gone into that space. It's all been done by the managers in their own team. So we developed up a bit of a template for them to work through. They've done that across the organisation. We just need to pull that all together and finalise that work. But essentially that work has been done. So look, I think that puts us in a really, really good place to respond if things change and we start moving up through those levels in the National Fuel Plan. So the work was very much aligned to, at level 2 of the National Fuel Plan, what do we need to do? At level 3, what do we need to do? At level 4, what do we need to do? Right across the organisation. Now I do notice that overnight we've got a peace deal. So look at who knows how lasting that might be. But look, I guess my point is we're well prepared if anything else eventuates either in that space or in another space that impacts solid fuel supply.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was just going to bring that up again because also in the last few days, and I can't actually remember where I read it, but I was reading an article and it was pertinent to New Zealand, and they said in July that it's going to be a favourable announcement and quite a drop in the price of the fuel at pumps. Which is obviously a good thing. And then, of course, with the news that came out overnight, that they have a signed peace deal, which is looking quite good, and also mentioned that the Hamas Strait will be fully open. Yeah. So I mean, fingers crossed, let's face it, but hopefully that does have a significant impact on pricing. So, yeah. But good work. I mean, obviously when this came to pass, you had to put some, like it is obviously top of mind, with the price of fuel. So hopefully the good news will carry on through, and see a significant drop in a bit of luck.
Good. Thank you.
Just on that point, I wanted to say thank you to Sustainable Matamata who have provided a letter or an email to both, or to staff at Matamata, Ash and I, in considering that particular point. And just from the perspective that submissions are welcome, and the good thing about that submission is it aligned to the work that the team was doing internally anyway. Thank you so much.
For sure, no problem. Page 26, if we can just go to that, so the summary of top risks table. So so we are doing a bit more work around the top risks and the reset of that tomorrow. So look, just thought in reference to that, it might be interesting to note that for risks 2, for risk 9, and for risk 10, we're seeing at the staff level those risks trending up. And look, that is very much in relation to where we are in regard to the waters transition and organisational change within this organisation, but also very much where we are with the government reform program. And you'll be very well aware of the Head Start stuff that's happening at the moment. So look, a lot of pressure and uncertainty for staff. So that is the thing that is driving those upturned arrows in the trends on page 26. Okay, pages 28 to 40. Look, there's quite a lot of detailed information on the key risk indicators. I don't intend to walk you through that, but certainly very happy to take any questions at the appropriate time. Page 41, I did just want to draw your attention to. So this is the top risk implementation monitoring. So you'll recall that that when we assessed the risk ratings, we to kind of get us to those to get us closer to the appetite that was set. We did indicate that we could build in a few more mitigations, a few more controls. This table reflects how we're going with that. Now, look, I guess the overall comment, and it was a comment that I made in the covering report, is look, I think we were quite ambitious in terms of what we set. And I guess that reflects on what you see on that table on page 41. So while some of them are complete, there's a large number that are still either very much in progress or or have been rephased, deliberately rephased into 26, 27. So look, have changed the measurement system there a little bit because it was all very focused on what is going to be complete by 30 June 26, which is about 2 weeks away now. And there was a huge amount that wasn't. So look, this is more now on a scale where you can see what's complete, what's in advanced stages of progress, what's in early progress, what hasn't been started, and what we've deliberately rephased. So I think that's a more helpful view, and I do talk to that in the report. And then the very last thing I just want to raise is just or point out to you, and again we'll do a lot more work on this tomorrow. Is the emerging risks on page 43 and 44. So there's a bit of a table there that was authored by the man on my right. But look, it's very good in this report to be just keeping our eye on what is happening. What is happening, and what we might need to tweak. Within Matamata-Piako in recognition of what's happening out in the wider world. So Chair, thank you. Those are my introductory comments.
Just in regards to the climate change section, I mean, I agree with all the weather resilience stuff we need to do. I'm just wondering, what are our adaptation obligations that were discussed, and how does the IPCC 8.5 degree scenario, which they're now saying is implausible, how does that impact on our policies now? Because most central and local government policies have been based on that 8.5 degree scenario.
Oh, okay. So look, I am really not a subject matter expert in this.
Sorry,
I don't know. Oh, actually,
He's looking.
Sorry. I do spot in the room. I don't know if she's got a comment.
Still need to take this into consideration, this latest change and how that might impact us.
That's very statesmanlike of you.
Well, only that I think we had this discussion a little bit with the climate resilience discussion, and you may recall me talking about the rainfall events and how that changes over time, and not how it changes, sorry, how the curve, shape of the curve. And so if an event was previously a one, like I think we had a Morrinsall was previously 1 in 40, and climate change adjusted, it became, or climate resilience adjusted, became 1 in 25 or 26. But the actual difference in rainfall and the impact of the event was not significant. So all I'm saying is I'm really comfortable that our strategy that we've developed and the actions that we've targeted on, which is about adaptation, knowing where we might have problems and trying to ensure we design appropriately to avoid those problems, I'm quite comfortable that we're fine on that. So I, I'm only looking about our own specific strategy that we're going to release for public consultation.
No, that's cool, and I agree with that too. But I just sort of, I just doubt that us rating or levying a rate on our ratepayers is going to change the climate in any shape or form.
Simple to have that great power.
Just a couple from me, Ken. One is in terms of the key risk indicators. Do we can you give us assurance that they give us early warning of control failures?
Look, I mean, yeah, to a certain extent they could, but yeah, I mean, I am very aware we're going to be talking about something a little bit later in this meeting. So I mean, they're never going to give that absolute assurance. But look, yeah, I hope that what they do present is a flavour for for what we have got in place, and that that it is working. Yeah, I mean, I think that's at this stage that's really what what these things do. They give you a flavour for each of those key risks. What is actually happening, and what is other controls we've got in place effective. Look, we might need to it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the work tomorrow in terms of what these things look like going forward. But look, we might be able to use what we've had this year as a bit of a learning experience for what we actually set next time in terms of the key risk indicators.
Thank you. Because I look at it from a holistic approach to a particular risk and what are the interdependencies, I guess, with other ones, with the resources that we need across that. And for us, it's an opportunity to test, is there something that we think should be there in terms of mitigating a particular risk? But I get that will come as the maturity in this space goes to. So thank you.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? What I think it has contributed towards is actually making sure our staff are aware of those issues and actually monitoring things that they may not have been monitoring before. So that's contributed to our risk maturity. Sorry to be going back.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions, the recommendation in front of us is that we received in the quarterly risk report during 2026 is received also. I'm moving. Can I please have a second? We have Deputy James seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, motion carried. Thank you very much, Ken and Dave, in terms of the work that you guys have done in that space and everyone else that's supported.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 8.4 of the agenda, which is the LGP 2737. Risks and issues, quality assurance, project timeline and progress update. Thank you, Anne. Yes, we do have everything joining us. Welcome, Anne. Over to you for some brief comments and then we'll brief comments for you joining.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morena Kaito. So as outlined in the report, the long-term plan for 2027-37 is now underway. Alongside the report, we provided you with the project plan and the timeline, the risks and issues register, the draft significant forecasting assumptions and a quality assurance plan. The key LTP risks relate to constrained staff and organisational capacity due to a number of competing demands and also general legislative uncertainty. So overall, while acknowledging a number of pressures, the LTP is progressing well and is currently on track. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, and for committee members, just reminding us that the recommendation ultimately is that we receive this and we also give feedback or guidance to the team.
This one, I don't have any notes or read marks beside anything actually, so I'm happy to the recommendation. If there's any other comments or feedback on the TP, I'm happy to leave the recommendation.
Awesome. I'll just make, I know that you guys get to see this more regularly, so I'll make a couple of comments. So as an example, there are 32 assumptions that we rely on within the LTP, and my comment yesterday to Manaya and Kelly was what if all of them don't go the way that we need them to go in terms of the long-term impact, with the impact on our long-term plan? So I was asking more questions. How do we stress test those assumptions to give us assurance that we're going to be in a good space if they don't go our way? And I know that that's hard, but I thought I'd ask the question anyway. So, Anne, did you have any comment on that?
I guess as we develop the plan, we're just staying really flexible on a number of matters, and the assumptions are one of those. We're just in such a changing environment all the time. It just really feels like we are having to be flexible and respond and slightly change and look at the nuance of these assumptions on a really regular basis. So I guess that's one thing. The other thing is just making sure we're relying on the most useful data sources, which a lot of these assumptions are ones that we have at each time. So we make sure that we're using the appropriate data sources, and we also stay really up to date with like sector guidance is really useful. Yeah.
Also, sorry.
Sorry, and yeah, great document. Just the community outcomes. You've got 5 of them there. Are they in priority or are they options?
You mean the community outcomes that
Community outcome 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You've got the first one, the community that's well managed with fair rates, priority focus areas, etc., etc. Are they? I suppose are they all outcomes that you're wanting to see drop out of that vision?
Those are actually the specific outcomes that you developed as a council.
Yep.
I don't believe there's any particular priority order to them, but yeah, they're the ones that you developed up together.
Okay.
So yeah, they definitely very core to everything we're trying to develop as part of the long-term plan.
Cool. No, thanks. Bruce is telling me I might miss that one. You missed out on the sticky. So I do remember that reduce the unnecessary red tape. Yeah.
Wait, Ash, did you have a comment?
No. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I left it up.
The other comments that I had, which are too hard to answer at the moment, was the focus on affordability and the difference between the affordability for council and the affordability for ratepayers can sometimes be a spectrum. No response needed, just recognising that affordability is an issue that we all grapple with. And then in terms of the quality assurance plan, it was a really good idea of the sense of the process, but sometimes I'm not sure what the spectrum of the quality is on a particular process item. And I was trying to think about one that would be really helpful. So if we're asked to do something, if we just do a part of it, it's a tick, or do we have to do a number of things to get a number of ticks? I wasn't quite sure on that. And the final thing was, if we go off track, what is the escalation process to either elected members, to ELT, to this committee?
So in terms of staying on track, I guess the process in general for things to do with the long-term plan go from the project team meetings, which are happening every couple of weeks, and then regular check-ins with the project sponsor, who's one of the ELT members, and then the executive team as a whole. But also alongside that, just regular updates to council, which will probably start to become more regular. I mean, we're having a lot of workshops on the LTP, but just in terms of those LTP updates, just so you know how council knows how we're tracking, I guess we'll start putting them in month by month.
Thank you very much for the answer. My comment was too vague. So just to give you an example, on page 35 of the agenda, it talks about financial information in the quality assurance plan, and there'll be a QA by the acting risk manager, but I don't have a sense of what they need to do to check that particular box. So I'm just recognising there's a lot of work that sits behind it, but very difficult for us to know what that would look like. But I don't have any further questions. Are there other questions? No, if there are none. Yeah, I think the feedback that we would give as a committee is well done to the team in terms of all the work that has gone into this particular space, and also to elected members, because I'm pretty sure we'll be on top of this and meeting or workshopping regularly in this space too. The recommendations in front of us are that we receive the report and then also no specific guidance given that congratulations to the work done so far. Sure. I'm moving. Could I please have a seconder? Mayor Ash is seconding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, Kumana carried. Well done, team. Thank you. We will now move to item 8.5 on our agenda, which is the annual report 25-26 project update. We have Olivia and Renee's in the room too. If you'd like to come up, Renee, because to see you, Olivia. Open the comments for you, and then we'll move through that. Thanks. Welcome, Renee. Good to see you.
Morning, Natasha. So yes, for the annual report update, as in your report, we have completed our interim and pre-final audits. So the team are wrapping up that side of things and are in preparation for the final audit, which will kick off the 31st of August. In preparation for the annual report adoption, which is scheduled for the 28th of October, that we are working alongside audit to achieve. So I'll pass it to Renee to make any comments and take any questions.
Sorry, that one's not working. Good morning, everyone. I'm just here as support today, listening to your meeting, but if there's any questions on the paper, happy to discuss progress and where we are.
Thank you.
Just a comment for clarity, because I see okay, so I know last year there was the problem around, I think it was the platform we were using or whatever, in relation to the property, plant and equipment, which is a key area of audit focus. And I think we ended up having to get a qualified opinion on that. But it's just a little bit disappointing to see that the way it words here, that it looks like it is also an issue this year. I thought that would have been addressed with this audit. If to be done for that last year, and it's noted in relation to the control balance and issues that delays in the timing of information may impact audit resourcing, timing and cost. So, and there's a couple of references there. Information to audit, it's like it's a little bit problem for audit and could end up in an overrun and a cost blowout with the audit fee, which I've already challenged them pretty high. And so, yeah, just comment on that, because if it happened last year, I thought we would have had that resolved by now, so it didn't happen again.
Well, I'll make a brief comment and invite any other team if they want to, because they've been dealing with more detail. So the PPE, you're quite right, Mayor Ash, that the PPE was a key issue in terms of our qualification last year, and it's been a key area of focus for the team this year. Significant work gone on, and hopefully we are closer to a position. Like, we basically had to go back through 2025, and I would have to say that trial balance issue was a little bit of a one-off thing that came up this year. That's been resolved, but the PPE is always, because we were qualified last year and it was a key factor, it was always going to be a critical area of focus this year, not only by audit, understandably, but by our team. So I believe the team feel that we've got the basis to resolve that, but we don't know that until we get the tick, until audit is satisfied, and that's what we have to do. So it is of no surprise that it stands out as a risk factor still, because we have to satisfy audit. So, but I can tell you there's a significant amount of effort gone into that area from our side.
So then they'll have to do a second trial, is that correct?
Sorry, did you want to comment on that child balance issue?
Just while Lani's making her way up, just in terms of the PPE, we are working very closely with audit to resolve that and agree on our approach as well. So we do appreciate the work that Renee's doing with us and work towards sorting that out. Oh, that looks.
Yes, I can. Through the chair. The qualification last year brings with it some complications, as Manaya said, for this year. So because the PPE for 2025 was qualified, our opening balance for 2026 is the problem. So what the team's busy doing at the moment is working through the 2025, but with a view on the opening balance. It's not just retesting. So it's and it is a very time intensive process on both teams' side. It's really large samples that we need to work through because of the risk that's now elevated. But it is it's quite an intensive project we're busy with at the moment. It does bring risk for this year. I just want to mention that. I just want to clarify, may I show you on the interim report, because I didn't see it. I'm not sure if it's on the agenda specifically. You were referring to the interim report. I just want to make sure I'm responding in the right.
Yeah, well, that's fine. It's in the it's just under the project update and background and the issues discussion points.
On page 46 of our agenda.
Page 46 on the agenda. And I think there was something else. I'll just see if I can find it. Scroll down and get a look from my lead.
While we're actually scrolling, it says the audit office has noted in relation to the trial balance and PPE issues that delay in the timing of information may impact.
That is correct.
I found the other red lines, and then if I scroll down, it's under the audit. I think it's prop.
In the risk area, it also says the additional audit work that resulted in the second interim audit is likely to result in increased audit fees for the 25-26 annual report. I'm not sure whether that's what you're looking for.
No, I read that. That's what I was bringing up before. But also on page 57, if you go up there, that's and it was for the 2025. It just a concern was under the audit hours with the budgeted and actual ones, and then note actual hours have been adjusted to eliminate any hours that were due to auditor inefficiency. But it was relating to about 200 hours. That's quite significant. What was
if you look, are you looking at the 2025 column? So you've got a budget column of 998, and then you've got actual hours at that.
Well, yeah.
So that additional hours was relating to the additional fee for 2025, and that was mainly around the matters.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just in the note underneath though. It says that the auditor inefficiencies.
Yes, so you don't see if there's inefficiencies on our side. Say I've got team members rotating within in the audit. What we do is we absorb that hours and we write it off. So in the 1,200 hours that you see there was actual efficient audit hours.
Oh, so it wasn't 200 hours of auditor inefficiencies?
No. There was some hours of audit inefficiencies. I'm not showing. It's not showing. Okay.
No, that's okay. I was just getting a little bit, concerned there. Thanks for that.
Thank you for you got there. Excellent. My question would be, what would be the thing that would most likely throw us off schedule in terms of meeting that 28th of October deadline for council to adopt?
Probably from my perspective, if we don't get across the line with the PPE stuff, we're dealing with huge samples. So we had 90 samples of asset additions for the 2025 year, and we're probably going to have a similar number of samples for the 2026 year. So that's a huge bottleneck of work that hits our team as well. So it's around the having the time to get that information to audit on a timely basis. And I'm fairly confident with the information itself. It's just, getting it to them and being able to, so they've got time to deal with it.
I can maybe just add Lonnie is absolutely right. So there's 90 samples, but it's only one of the tests. So there's a number of tests that we do. So the 90 samples, for example, there's back and forth on most of them or a lot of them as well. It's not just the once-off process where, there's information provided and, we can close it off. Because it's such a, it's an area where you've got a really large dollar number, you've got thousands of transactions and we're running random samples. So we are picking up a lot of different types of transactions through there. So it is a little bit of back and forth between the audit team and, Council's team, which takes a tremendous amount of time.
So how do we fix it? What's needed to fix it? I mean, from my perspective, we're going to be doing this next year as well and the year after, because that, like I say, audit fees are like 300 grand now, and it's significant. It's like a percentage, 1% of rates, and then we've got, extra audit fees on the LTPs and things like that going forward. So it is what's serious area that we need to focus on, try to get down. See, like what I'm getting at, it's not that you have to do it. It's how can we assist, or how can we make it happen, or is there anything that we can?
So I guess part of the problem was how we pull the information out of our authority system. So last year we couldn't sort of agree on how we'd pull the information out to support our numbers we have in our financial statements. So this is what kind of the process this time is, to come up with a process that we agree that we're getting, we're giving the right information to audit. So I think once we're sort of proving it with the 2025 work that we're doing at the moment, and then hopefully that we've sort of talked through to with audit how we can be more efficient when we get the 2026 samples. So yeah, I'm hoping that through this process, by the time we get past the 2026, we'll have a really clear process going forward for future years.
Sorry. So, obviously I don't have a clue, but is it then maybe a question more to Renee, with other councils, are other councils in exactly the same position, or is there software out there that makes that easier to extract the information that you need for our staff to supply to you? I mean, is this the same? I'm assuming it's happening to us. Then does it happen to every council the same, or have they got a different process?
It's a good question. I can't really speak about all the other councils. Councils generally have got challenges in the PPE space. With this specific scenario, in terms of the audits in our office from last year, this was the one we struggled with the most. In getting the challenge is we need to provide assurance over the information. So we need obviously a clear, correct transaction listing. As I said earlier, it's millions of dollars, thousands of transactions. We can't test all of it. So we need to run random sampling through that. And the system, the requirement is a listing so that we can run those samples through. So it was challenging in this council scenario last year, and we, at the end of the day, we made the call to draw the line. This has increased the risk in terms of audit risk, and that's why our samples I think are increased, and it's going to be the same for 2026. And we'll see how that goes and see if we can, in terms of working with this process, if we manage to get to a point where there's an easier way of getting this done. But yeah, as I said, it's more. I think management will probably give you a better answer on that because they work with day to day. I'm always an advocate for your systems need to support you in such a way that you can put your focus on making sure your transactions and those things are correct, but your system need to provide you good information with the press of a button. But that's something that management can maybe just.
Yeah, so audit though are giving them the clear guidelines that information that they need to provide.
Definitely on the report level. So on the report level, it's been in clear clear listings supporting your, for example, your PPE note that's going to say, this is additions, etc. On the testing, it's more complex because running that 90 samples through that very large population, the first time we run that sample, we don't know what we're going to get. So we ask for information, but that's in the testing side, that iteration becomes, you need to ask for more, and that's what's eating up a lot of the time. That makes sense.
I guess we've sort of talked recently about in the samples, like if we understand what audits, what things they're trying to tick off and their intention of their testing, then we can try and second guess what they might need to be able to approve the samples. So hopefully that will make it a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, that's sort of my concern. It's almost like I know I won't say it.
And that's something that's been quite clearly identified for us, that we've got an expectation gap between the two parties. So we have had Ken, who's just come back into the room, working really closely with audit and with our staff to help us get through this process, because we are certainly aware of the concerns that you're raising.
Yeah, I'd hate to see us playing a game of tennis, and racking up the.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got the same goal. I mean, there's no question about it. They might be in the process, there might be some space for improvement on our side. There's really good communication between us and the two teams. It's very clear that the goal is the same. It's just getting there, that we keep trying to improve and work together.
That's a real word salad to me. My recollection was that we had, it was an issue or incompatibility with the systems that you were using and you were using, or that's what I thought. Right? Was that what we discussed last year? An inability to transfer the data in a format that they could use, is that?
Yeah, my sort of understanding is that audits, their tool they use for auditing has changed over the years, and so how
yours and ours is not compatible with it.
Ours has not changed, no. So how we were giving the information to them before is not how they need the information provided now. So we're trying to provide it in a different way so that it meets the needs that they need for the system.
Gonna be able to.
It's what else.
I think the key. Yes. Oh, sorry. You're going to make that point. Yes. So the very well made point by the chair is that the Office of the Auditor General is a regulator, and that the regulators' requirements can change. I think the Office of the Auditor General is very conscious of the environment we're in, and I'm pretty sure it's considering how much change. In fact, I had a meeting last week about that with a representative from the office, how much change they impose on us in this environment. The challenges for us, as I said before at the outset, the fact that we got qualified last year means this has to be a risk factor. It's just logical that it is. I'm confident the team are doing as much as we possibly can to ensure that this issue is addressed. And obviously that's, professionally, the team are wanting to do that irrespective of anything else. And I know that Renee and her team have been very cooperative and helping us with that focus. So, I'd love to say absolutely, drink won't be a problem. I'm just confident that we're trying to do the right things to get it over the line, and it won't be because of lack of effort that it doesn't compute.
The only other thing I would add in this space is in our papers in 6.1, where it talks about changes in audit fees. The fee assumptions outlined there that the audit office get complete information through the timetable. They get the assistance that they need from staff, that there is a quality assurance process over the annual report, and all the disclosures are included. And I highlight the disclosures because there's lots of disclosures that will be required in this one and one moving forward. And what it also states is that what the fees exclude are the local water done well changes and the review of the PPE opening balances. So just making sure that we're aware that we have signed out and there is potential impact for the audit fee moving forward. I'm not saying that we like it, I'm just saying that's the situation. The audit office, to the point made, they're a regulator. I mean, we get to have an opportunity to have a discussion and sometimes move a little bit, but ultimately they have to hold the line on the legislation that they have to carry out their work to do. So to a certain extent, we have to bend to that. Also, not necessarily in the space that we like it either, but also recognising the situation that we're in. And thank you, Manai, for outlining a lot of the great work that's been done both from our team, but also the audit office to get this across the line, because ultimately we do have the same goal. If there are no further questions, I'm going to move to our recommendation on page 45, which says that the information be received and the update from the audit office also be received. I'm moving. We have Mesh seconding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, comment. Thank you very much, Karen, for all the work. Maybe we can try for one more item and then morning too. So if that's okay, yep.
Yeah.
So it's 8.6. The annual plan. Oh, I like the word September anyway. Annual plan for 26-27, we have 9, I think. Great to see you in terms of, look forward to your update, and then we'll open for comments and questions. And don't be pressured by your standing between us and one another.
Cool. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So just a brief update on our annual plan. As you can see in the report, this year we did not undertake any public consultation on the annual plan. Council confirmed the draft budget in February, and then at that time it was decided that there was no significant or material variance from year 3 of the LTP. So therefore, no consultation has taken place. It is intended to bring the annual plan to council next week to their meeting for adoption. And following that decision, they will set the rates for 26-27 financial year. Yeah, I'll hand over to Lane if she's got any additional comments to make. Thanks.
In terms of the budget, just pointing out that the water and wastewater budgets in the LTP were largely driven by the water service delivery plan. Yeah, we've obviously ensured we've maintained the limits that were set in our LTP as well for our water rates and other rates. If you look through the annual plan financial statements, you'll see that it's heavily dominated by the impact of our transition to Waikato Waters this year. There was quite a lot of work required in terms of the accounting policies. So when we set the accounting policies in this annual plan, we have to think ahead of how we're accounting for things by the end of the financial year. So unfortunately, the accounting policies that we put in there won't really be tested by audit until we get through probably some of the annual report work. So there's a real risk there that some of the treatments that we've applied may change. But the annual plan itself is not audited, but we obviously want to make sure that when we come to report against our annual plan next year, that we're as closely aligned to what's going to happen in reality as possible. So I'm actually still just working through some of those last changes to hopefully better draft the annual reports and annual plan to council next day or two. So yeah, any questions on that?
I'll just raise a couple. So just letting the committee members know that the recommendation will change from the report being received and we provide feedback on the annual plan, and instead of approving, we're going to provide feedback on the assessment of legislative compliance, because we've recognised that this committee doesn't actually have the mana, I guess, to approve that particular document. So thank you for the team that worked behind the scenes to make that happen. Mine were probably quite detailed technical questions, so Lani, I apologise in advance. On page 69, of, I think this is the assessment of legislative compliance. It talks about if you've got general rates, you need to outline what the sources of funding are. And so can you clarify whether that outline is supposed to happen in the FIS, the funding impact statement, or can it instead happen in the calculation of rates? I was just reading specifically what it said in here.
Yeah, so
And the same with the targeted rates as well.
so with the targeted rates, we have to say what, with the targeted rates, we need to say what the funding activity is, what activity we're funding. So that's really clear. We don't need to do the same for the general rate and the UAGC. So if you look at the table, the calculation of rates table, there's not actually a funding activity outlined there. But it all ties back to our revenue and financing policy where we set out what we're funding from general rate and UAGC.
Yeah, thank you. I was taking it word for word because it said if the sources of funding include a general rate, the funding impact statement must or include.
Sorry,
Funding impact statement, funding impact statement does disclose whether general rates or targeted rates are specifically sources of funds.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. And then on page 70, it talks about includes the projected number, total capital value and total land value of the rating units. But when you look at the section in the annual plan that mentions net land value versus total land value, I did say it was specific.
Okay, on page 70 of the
Yeah, page 70, which is the legislative compliance assessment. But when you go into the actual annual plan, I'm sorry, team, for taking us into the weeds.
I don't know.
So on the annual plan, is page 8. It talks about net and land value versus total land value.
Annual plan document.
and the annual plan document. Okay, sorry.
So I'm skipping between the two.
So page, sorry, what?
8.
8.
In the table, it talks about net land value versus total land value.
Oh, okay. Maybe about our district thing.
And I'm only reading it word for word because originally we were asked to approve that. And I was like, oh, I want to make sure that we're right.
So, sorry, that's probably we use that disclosure over and over. So, just land value would cover it off.
Whatever we need for that, for us to give assurance that we're happy with that legislative compliance assessment.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely have a look at that and make sure it's.
It wasn't.
I see what keeps like.
Yeah. Oh, capital total land value. Okay. Yeah, it's probably just the wording. Yeah, probably just the wording that's on that table. So,
I don't usually get it. So I just try and prove. I don't read it all.
no, that's great.
Are there any further questions? Otherwise, I'm going to be almost we'll be out of there. And so I'll go back to our recommendation is that the report was received and that we provided feedback and that we also provided feedback on the assessment of legislative compliance with some minor changes on that third one. Stephanie,
So you're taking the word approve out. And
yes, yeah. I think Stephen's got the recommendation for that. And thank you, Sandra, who devised this for us in the first place.
Just make a note that a future reports on these will just put committee feedback rather than approval.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to move until we get to first. Would you like to change? Any, okay, I've got it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Combined carried. Thank you very much, Dan, and good luck. Especially when it comes to the conversion. So well done, team. We have earned morning tea. So I'll come back at 11 p.m, please. Thank you.
Please.
Welcome back. We moved to the item 8.7 on the agenda.
Rugby ball and.
Sorry, Kelly, I was just saying that I don't see Rachel in the room to consider 8.7, 8.9. Can we go to 8.9? The staff culture survey update. Back team. I hope you reach your well to do morning team.
Yep.
Over to you, Kelly. Item 8.9 staff culture survey. So basically, overall, the results show that we've got a strong culture, which is great. It does highlight some clear organisational risks for us, particularly around leadership consistency, change, capacity and systems, which we are actively managing. And hopefully you've seen that from the report, what we're actually focusing on, our current plans and future plans. As you heard earlier through the CE report and also our quarterly risk report, that key risk for us really is around change, all the change that's happening to our organisation. We are doing a lot in this space to help manage that. So from formal change management processes around our organisation review, also employee support, supporting our managers to lead through change, so actually giving them the tools to be able to do that and making sure that we're actively talking about that all of the time, and also making sure we're keeping our staff informed. So really, I just want to put this report in front of you and give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. Thank you. Thanks, Billy. Any questions?
I just wonder, was right, Larissa, do you need to push play? And the one question, Kelly, I suppose, was, as you alluded to, most of the, I wouldn't say issues, but most of the, well, not in conflicts, but are coming from probably outside the organisation in regards to organisational change into bucket of waters and uncertainty around that. Would that be people?
Yes, that's correct. Also, as Minaya mentioned earlier, we've also got an organisational review happening as well. So all of that in combination does create uncertainty for our staff, and we're well aware of that and trying to manage that.
Instead of going our risk catalogue on it.
Yes, absolutely, and that's what Ken referred to earlier about one of those risks in terms of staff capacity and capability is trending upwards. So we're well aware of that and try to manage that in every way, shape, or form that we can.
Great the way it all ties in, isn't it?
That's right. It's like it was planned. Thank you, Kelly. The question I had yesterday was, when we change the way that we survey, it potentially loses the ability for us to have comparatives. But I do feel like this change has provided an opportunity to your works to give some really good insights in terms of what's happening with our team. And I think that's important for us to have a true sense of. So I really appreciated some of the comments that came through, some of the stories and what you can do with that in terms of changing or even empowering or giving understanding to others in that space. That's your Andrew.
Sorry, there's one other question I think to ask, and I just noticed it now was, do we use any comparisons to any benchmarks?
Not through this survey. We did previously under our Astra team survey that we used, but what we found, and we used to have really good results in comparison to local government, but what we found is that survey was about 65 questions, and our staff didn't particularly like actually engaging in that survey. We had a low participation rate. This survey gives us much more useful data, just those stories to actually tell us what's happening out there and better understand. So no, we can't benchmark against other organisations, but it's giving us that real rich data that we can actually use.
Cool, thank you.
If there are no further questions, the recommendation is that the information be received. I'm happy to move. Please have a seconder. We have Councillor Andrew seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Commander carried. Thank you. And thank you, Kelly. Thank you for being very flexible in the approach to the paper or the agenda. We'll now move back to item 8.7, which is the project management report. Kia ora, Rachel. Welcome. I'm sorry. It is page 73 out of 155.
There is a lot of information on those reports, so I probably apologise for that. There's two distinct portfolios. There's definitely the wastewater and water
That's really driven by our external dependency, so our Waikato Borders transition, regulatory consent timing, all those sorts of things that we've had to put on hold and haven't been able to progress. So sort of our key risks in those areas are the wastewater consenting, because that can hold, all compliance driven. Man-made wastewater treatment plant upgrade, we know that that's a big one. We've also got Matamata-Piako raw water stuff. So there's sort of all elevated risk that some of those are outside of our control due to legislation and everything else. The broader infrastructure stuff, so our parks, our roading, all those kind of things, they're mainly driven by internal constraints, so capacity, our unrealistic cleaning assumptions that we've done, our procurement, we've severely underestimated some of those timelines that we needed to give ourselves. So that's all things that we've learnt, good lessons to learn for next year's planning prioritisation and things like that. So we've got it under control, actively managing it. Some of our actions we're going to do the reprioritisation, focus on those compliance things, anything that's externally funded, and our carry forward planning for next year.
Some comments or questions from members?
Hi, Rachel. Hey, I can't find it just now, but I had noted it down in my little thing, but there was a section there, I can't remember where it was, but it said there's no business case validation or strat planning in part of the thing, which is a concern. I'm just thinking that's sort of basic 101. What happened there?
That is a huge improvement that we're looking at doing in the future. We've had limited sort of capacity and resourcing around that. We know that there's a gap. We know that we need to address that, and that has been focused on for this year and the next decade.
Can I just comment there? So I'll give you an example of one. The Tiaraha Spa was previously quite a big project, and quite a lot of work done on the business case, which subsequently was not approved. And so the LTP council decided we need to put some money in to do something. So we've got some money to do something, but we don't know what we're going to do. So that's a big example, but there can also be small examples of projects where we say, and it is not criticism, it's just this is sometimes a project's put up because we want to allocate funding to it, but there's a gap between that and it. So probably another live example of that, if I can comment, because it's just been going around the council of trips at the moment. Moran's a recreation ground, Te Araha Domain. Buckets of money to do some work, but not actually knowing what we're going to do. So those are just really lessons for us to try and push hard to get that clarity of the what, and then we can work through the rest of it. Does that help at all? Give you a sense of?
Well, it helps, but it doesn't ease my discomfort a little bit, thinking you're pushing money towards something without knowing the why of doing it and what it's going to do. You know, I've always sort of been goal oriented, I suppose, and so I like to prioritise the goal before you prioritise any other assets towards it, I suppose. It's just like I say, business 101, isn't it?
So yeah, so it's absolutely right, absolutely. And so that discipline we will try to make sure sits whenever we put projects into the LTP. Yep. Or we'd say it's going to have to occur in year 4 to 10 because we don't have enough clarity in year 1 to 3.
I think if you haven't got enough clarity, you put the money into that person to complete maintenance, etc., like that. But if it's a capital project, surely you don't go into that without plan.
Yeah, you're right. And renewals tend to be a lot easier, and renewals are pretty good on. It's the new projects where the clarity needs to.
And sometimes that's another thing we are working. And sometimes they do morph and stadium, sports stadium's a great example. We initially allocated $2 million because we thought it was going to be a $6 million build, ended up being $3 million for an $11 million build. So it changed, and and that was quite a difficult. If we use that project as an example, quite a difficult project to do the business case on, particularly because it just changed so quickly, and as other parties came in as partners, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I was quite right in terms of that. It's just that you kind of know that there's time for something that, and that's why it kind of gets kicked down the LTP. We know that we're making an allowance for it, but the specifics and the and if we don't get a specific, I suppose, business case, then it does get kicked down a bit further down the track. So we have kicked the can on quite a few things that just gone, oh crap, we don't really know what it, and again, that sports stadium is a great example. I think Ashall and what was it, something like 17 years proposal? No, wasn't that long? It was getting up there. It was getting up there.
I mean, it was first thought.
Yes. So yeah.
Okay. That's right. I just saw that and I just wanted to highlight it and thinking, why is it happening?
Yeah, kind of that's, yeah.
Were you going to say something?
Oh, it's on the same theme. It's this situation where you've got a long-term plan and you've got to put some money in there, and you know that you want to do the pool, and it just keeps moving out, and it's probably going to keep moving out further and what have you. There has to me, there has to be an understanding or an expectation that there is capacity, financial capacity, or to have something there that will be able to be funded, 3 or 4 and fit into that long-term plan. But how you can, how you can word it so that, but you think about the SPA. The reason it's in there is because if you took it out, there'd be hell to pay from the ratepayers of Tiara saying, you've taken it out, so you're between a rock. You're not really taking it out. You're keeping the maintenance budget in there, so you're doing the day-to-day operations. I'm thinking, but we're talking capital. Looking at a capital plan, why throw something into something where you haven't got any plan for it? Where it might cost you long run, rather than delaying it 1 or 2 years. I mean, you've got the time value of money and inflation, obviously. It's the capacity. No, but that's not the issue. Is as much is the capacity of council to actually do that consultation, that design, that and what have you. And you get that. We get that every year. And Neil used to say we only ever get 70% of our projects done. Was that
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, it's something.
And we're here 74 and.
And if I lean into that comment, we have previously, through the audit office, received an emphasis of matter and an audit opinion, which talked about our ability to deliver capital projects. So my question to you, Manaya, is you've said that in the renewal space, we're usually pretty good. And if it's not in the renewals, we're not as good. So what are the active steps that we are taking to get better in that space? And will we see it come through in this report?
Well, I think, and I give credit to the team driving through the process of embedding their project management framework, where it gives you, you can see the ones that progress well and the ones that don't, and where you have clarity, they progress well. So the team, we're trying to ensure, and they've already started this work, to ensure that those business cases are prepared well ahead of time. I mean, take the Morrinsville pool. That's on even though it's, I can't remember what year it's in, whatever year it is, the team know that we've got to do some pre-work to try and at least start have any chance of starting a physical build. So we were trying to get better, and as Rachel, I think, alluded to in the report, upfront work, the upfront planning, more of that. And I think to be fair, I think what I have to try and do in terms of this LTP is really put the heat, if I can, on the discussion around what goes in and where it goes in. I accept the political realities that part of this, in fact, some of the projects we've put in is to signal to our regulators that we're prepared to fund this, even though we knew we couldn't get some things done. We're saying we know how important this is. So sometimes that has been a signal, but other than that is to have that conversation around with council through this long-term plan about how strong are we in our understanding of what we're trying to achieve this, and let that dictate the timing. So it's a really, as Councillor Dugas said, politically it's a really difficult challenge, because you've got your community wanting all this stuff to happen, and then you've got look at that wonderful Tui Park proposal that came before council. Wonderful, not on our schedule. We will make it happen. Something will be pushed back because of it, but that's about prioritisation. That will always happen. But in terms of the generic issue, it is about the pre-planning, I think. Would that be fair, team? I just want to.
We're just trying to be a little bit more defined about project need, and instead of trying to solve the problem, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and then looking at those options. So having a bit more clarity on that instead of putting ideas in there, it's actually anchoring it back to a problem statement, I suppose, and a problem need. So it makes it easier.
Yeah, I guess this discussion, if anything, speaks to the value of this report and the project management framework. And then I guess the interesting and sobering, the relevant thing is for the council is exactly as you said, when is putting the pressure on the councillors when we're making these decisions, and ensuring that it's appropriately defined, or if it's not, understanding that it's going to come through in the report a year downstream is something that hasn't been progressed. So yeah, really just a great conversation that speaks to the value of the report would be my comment.
I think the other thing I'd say is, and I think I've asked this before, and I forgot. So in terms of the benefits that we're expecting of each of these projects, where does the reporting or feedback loop go in terms of the project's finished? These were the benefits that we were supposed to get out of the project. This is what we did get out of the project, so we can utilise that in our future thinking.
Yeah, I think that is something that is still, and we're working on that a little bit better, I think, by having that initiation phase better and clearer about the problem we're solving, and it is much easier to then relate that back to the objectives and what you're achieving. But
Once that's clearly defined from the beginning, then once that project is handed back to the relevant service area, it will be up to them to determine whether they've actually realised those benefits or not, because most of the time when you finish a project, they're not initially, you don't get the benefits straight away. It might take 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the track. A project manager's not going to report back on that. They're doing the next 10 projects. So that will be handed back to the delivery or service area of where that's going to be, to basically tell us, did we achieve what we set out to, or did we not?
Thanks, team. I enjoyed that kōrero. The recommendation in front of us on page 74 is that the information be received on moving. Hopefully we receive it. You have definitely had James seconding. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, all other carried. Thank you very much, team, for all the work that you guys do in that space. We can see that it's clearly loved. Keep it up. We'll move on to item 8.8, which is project management top project risks.
All right,
and friends.
First, each of the project managers are here. They'll speak to their own reports. Chris is on annual leave at the moment, so Rapa is back to kindly fill in if you've got any questions about Chris's. Marie, wastewater treatment plant.
I don't need to share anything because you've all got the
attachments.
Yeah,
attachments. So I guess, is there any questions, queries about where the wastewater treatment plant's at? Any cute concerns that are not all
How much Jackie going on there?
Which budget?
Excellent. So, other than side bets going on, are there any substantive comments or questions for the team in terms of the report?
Yes, I've been away for 6 weeks or so, and you guys probably discussed it anyway, but could you give me a bit more of an update on the Mornington RSA wall?
Okay, so that's Rapa. Update you on that one. So this one's specifically about anything to do with the Matamata wastewater treatment plant. Have you got any questions?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I like how you jumped ahead there. So, yeah. But sometimes we like to have a plan first, no?
He wants a wall between the waste heat and
I guess from my perspective, Minoa and I have talked about this a lot, you know, the triangle of the scope, the time and the cost, and then obviously the benefits that flow out of that. And sometimes when we go into the top risks of the particular projects, we might not necessarily focus on that triangle all the time. So just flagging that. I'm quite keen to ask in the future how we're going in terms of what we said we were going to do, in terms of what the cost is and also the time frame as well. So nonetheless, appreciate all the work that's going on in that space, but I'm going to be having a consistent theme with my questions in that space. Okay. That was me trying to find some space for somebody else to ask questions, but there are none. So thank you.
All right.
Did you have any comments that you'd like to say to us in terms of a particular project?
No, not really. It's going well. So yeah, it's on track. Yeah, personally.
On budget.
On budget.
It's new approved budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've met Greg Hall before. He's one of our project managers that joined us in September last year. So good to have him on board.
Yeah, Greg's been given the lovely Morrinsville RTS upgrade today, so he's flipping through that one. So again, any questions about Morrinsville RTS?
Did you want to make any comments first in terms of how the project's going, maybe in terms of scope?
Yeah, things take a lot longer within council to go through the process. So we are running probably a couple of months behind and getting the tender out. But we've got plenty of time and flex in the scope to do that. And we've included fixing up a wall that wasn't part of the original scope as well.
When you say we've got time and flex, does that mean that we expected that things might go like that, or are we eating into contingency?
No, we had a bit of flex in there to begin with, and we've also got contingency as well that we haven't eaten into yet. So more just around the time that it's taking.
Yeah. But that one we have probably quite ambitious with some of our scope. So depending on what that tender comes back at, we have already come up with a plan that something can go. So those main things of we must have, we want to keep those, and then the nice to have sort of thing, like they'll be the first ones out if it doesn't come back within our budget.
Is it out now?
Should be going out in the next month.
Right.
Yeah, just waiting for a few things to come back so then we can finalise the design.
But you have ordered some of the other equipment.
Yes, so we've ordered some key equipment like two-way bridges and a new staff kiosk to dangerous goods storage containers.
Well, are you starting to find you're getting some of those efficiencies you're hoping for already, or are you still waiting for like those weigh stations and stuff to come through yet?
Yeah, we won't get those efficiencies until we've actually done the work and it's up and running again.
Okay. So
for all the stuff.
What percent of the work have you completed so far, or what have you through?
About 30%.
Okay.
So yeah, we haven't awarded the main contract tender yet to do the actual physical works on site. So what we can pre-order, we've pre-ordered.
I just want to pick up on a comment that you made about ambitious in terms of scope, which I start to then worry about what that could mean in terms of a knock-on effect for delivery. But you're confident that irrespective of the scope maybe changing a little bit, we'll still be able to deliver on time, on budget?
Yeah, so we're very strict of this is what we can spend on this one. So there is potentially, we'd like to have a roof over the top of our thing, but that will be the first thing that gets off and wiped off if, that doesn't come back within the budget that we've allowed.
Have we seen anything from a design perspective on it?
We had some design plans, and when we did the site visit with the council,
That's where I missed because I wasn't there.
Overall layout.
So that's a
picture in the report as well.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Great. Okay. Thank you for your time. And I think flags or Councillor Andrews flagged that he's got questions.
Yeah, right, you've already missed the question.
He's got good news for you.
Open, kia ora, welcome. If you've got any overarching comments, feel free to make them. Otherwise, we'll open for comments and questions from the committee members.
Yeah, well, I'll get straight to the question. So one of the remaining items from council resolution that we had to address was to get the cost sharing agreements with the RSA across the line. We made some progress on that. We had a meeting with them on Wednesday night last week just to go over payment terms. And we've agreed in principle to the payment terms. We're just tidying up the agreement at the moment. And yeah, we'll pass it on to them to sign on that so we can progress with the rest of the project.
When's possible commencement date?
We've been talking in the background to the contractor, the local contractor that we're working with. We need to sign a contract with them in terms of the work. Once we get the cost sharing agreement, they can progress with their ordering equipment, materials. And that's we've also been working on the consents, getting consents. We need building resource consent for the project, and that's progressing as well.
Estimated time, Robert?
So for construction, we're hoping to catch up with contractor this Friday. Worked out a plan for how to stage the works when they can realistically start on site.
And just from a personal perspective, when you do deconstruct it, could you take some photos? Because I've just got to, it'll confirm what my suspicions were, or it may not, but it may or may not confirm my suspicions on the original wall that might be of interest to me. Yeah. So
I don't want to. What I'm saying is, I sounds like a conspiracy. Need some photos. I'd like to see what was there.
Hey, Mr. D, a Trump conspiracy theory.
Sounds like a staff action to invite you to come take some photos.
Well, I'd like to see it come down.
There's certainly a lot of interest. In the wall.
Are there any other comments or questions from members on this item?
Just be good to get it sorted. Been hanging around for a long time.
So, good luck with that team. Thank you very much to each of the project managers and representatives that came along. The recommendation in front of us is that we receive this report. I'm moving, but I please have a seconder. We have Councillor Andrew seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? For Mana, carried. Thank you, Rafa, Greg, Marie, Susan, and Rachel for all the work that you guys do in that space. And we'll look forward to future updates. Positive ones. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item 8.10 on the Mayoral Fund and Mayoral Disaster Relief Fund policies. Shall we? Yeah. Shall we? Over to you guys, and then we'll open for comments and queries.
So good morning, everybody. So this is regarding the Mayoral Fund policy and the Mayoral Disaster Relief Fund policy, which are being reviewed and amended by staff currently. So they were presented to Council on the 3rd of June, which confirmed the inclusion of a conflict of interest clause into the Mayoral Fund policy, as well as other minor amendments that were made. We did receive the comments from the Chair regarding the 2-up process, which is typically involved in these funds and applications, which currently isn't in our policy, as well as the comment regarding that the expenditure in the Mayoral Fund typically exceeds $500, which is highlighted in the policy as the base amount. So staff will look into adding this feedback and working these into the policies. But happy for any other comments.
Thank you. And just to give context on that is my concern was around, are we protecting Mayor Ash in the decision making to give him a, if you got an application, say for $1,000 and you were okay with that, that is Sylvan just checking for you that complies with this particular policy. So it wasn't trying to take the money away from your decision making, it was just keeping you safe in that space.
No, it's really, I think in the past, if there's been, if I've had one or, been approached by one that I've thought, does it fit in? I do generally ask someone if that is, then they refer back to the policy and the wording around that. So also mindful of seed conflict of interest. And I've made that clear in the email transactions back when I've approved it. I'll mention that in the opinion. So yeah, sort of fairly confident on how it runs, and I've never felt that I've put on council or GP or anything like that. I've been pretty open and transparent about my thinking around it, and I've usually run it off by the councillors as well to some degree as well. Just my intentions or my intentions to do that. And also, mindful, because you've probably noticed in there that we've got both the mayoral fund and the disaster relief. Some of the councils don't have that, but some of the other councils also have other ways of doing the same thing, but out of a different pool of money, if you like. So when we discussed it around the council table, we were quite comfortable that it still sits okay in that regard, because it's probably taking it out, I guess, and of course it's relatively low amounts, but it just makes it easier. I've just had another one last night at Chincomen. It's kind of freaking assistance on the go from another media. Yeah.
I think as long as we can make sure it's an enduring policy, so Mayor Ash might be quite encompassing, asking other councillors and stuff who might get a mayor in there who's a bit more autocratic and thinks he or she is maybe not above the law, but more more able to use the fund for their own purposes. And I think we can draw a line. And from a devil's advocate point of view, if we got it wrong, then Manaia gets a cellmate.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I just follow up on that by saying,
I thought you were going, that he's got a cell phone.
physically observing that the policy is really reflecting the way that Mayor Ash operates, right? So there's nothing new there. It's just documenting it in a way so that if there's a future scenario, it's great. Just reflecting how the mayor operates now, which is very good to have that documented.
And I'd like to comment, Councillor Andrew, as well, in terms of future proofing it, irrespective of who sits in the chair. And to your point, Mayor Ash, when you talk about, we've got a laundry list, or a list, I should say, of transactions that have happened under those particular policies. And you've told us that there's work that happens behind the scenes, but we don't see that right there to say that this one for $1,000 or whatever it might be was checked with the council or elected members, or that kind of thing. So just more to protect you.
That's true. And that instead of having a verbal that maybe it could be documented in that too.
Yeah. And because we had an audit thing, it's always around show us or verify to us that that's what actually happened. So, okay. If there are no further comments, Steph, did you want to put up the recommendation? Which was just which was in line with the feedback. And the reason why I had talked to the team about a two-step approval process, I think it's in there already in terms of Manaia kind of authorising, but it's just making sure that when we do things, we don't do things by ourselves. And that's a standard practice across a lot of the financial things that we do. So it's not trying to take the money away from you, it's just trying to keep you safe. And then the bit about reviewing the 500 maximum amount, I think, if we've got a lot that are over there already, we need to ask ourselves, should it be $1,000 limit? Or what does the process look like if it's going to go over that $500 limit? So just asking staff to kind of give the options in its place.
I'm sort of in two lights with that, because I see that the 500 maximum amount is actually quite a good amount to be potentially a guide, if you like, and so I guess the times you'll see one in there from history back where for 1,078, but there was a bit more of a process around it to go over the 500, if you like, so if it was for more money, then I guess it would trigger something for me personally, as I would then definitely, go for it, bring it back to council. Had a recent, an example of that is that, we're looking at Outward Bound, where we get to send someone to Outward Bound that could hugely benefit and potentially change their life, and we're looking at about $1,000 for that. So I've been very open with the council and around the boardroom of the intentions to do that. So I kind of don't mind the 500 maximum. I think if we go to the 1,000, then it's, I just see the 500 as a bit of a guide, and then because it's not you can go over that, but it makes you think about it a little bit more, and maybe incorporate more people in that decision.
Maybe if we added the word justification to the end of that.
Yes.
So that would cover off that to say, yeah, it's still a guide, but can we just make sure that we're transparent in the reason why we've gone over that 500 guide?
Yeah. Or council has the ability to review the 500 maximum with justification or something like that.
Well, while Steve's doing that, Jack?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not anti 500 like that. I was just curious, that we're still the only council in our group, if you like, that have it, obviously, but. And I mean, if we, I guess if you said, well, if there was something over 500 that you came to council, wouldn't you? I mean, that's effectively what we're talking about here, is it?
Yeah,
go on kind of.
Mention it,
yeah, because I mean, because it's important, is it, that it covers you. The important thing is, you've got some discretionary money, as it were, but it's important that the process is interesting too. I mean, just that one example you used about the Outward Bound, and in fact, I don't think there's Outward Bound. It's the outdoor pursuits, like Lions, we send 3 Lions of Cotton kids there every year. So I don't, whether they're coming to you, or whether they should be, for some cases, guided elsewhere as well. Because I suppose the thing that don't worry me, might lay awake at night thinking about it, but how it's easy enough to find stuff on our website, but I mean, how many of our people know that there's a mural mural fund, as it were?
Oh, it seems like a few do. Yeah, I just got one last night.
They're probably the perennial ones that go, again, maybe. But I mean, obviously, the Anzac stuff here, that makes some sense. It's kind of cool having that little bit of funding going in there, but it's just really, I don't know, for me, it's just, if the council wishes to keep it, fine. I'm not going to make a song and dance over it, but that, and it's not huge money, so it's not. But it's just about keeping you safe as the mayor, in terms of where that money goes to, and then it's a little bit of, I guess, I quite like the 2-step approval process if we're over X amount. But yeah, just some thoughts anyway, not real strong feelings either way.
Yeah, just going back on that Outward Bound was also part of the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. It's from the same sort of relation, if you like. But I know, one of our neighbouring councils, they sent quite a few, I think, in fact, like 7 in the last year. But that particular mayor is able to access their repairs fund. So that's why I'm saying that instead of, they don't on the surface have a mural fund, but he sort of does, because he can just go with taking it out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think our way's a little bit tidier in that regard, because there's quite a bit of perception out in the community still to this day about the Power New Zealand Fund and where is it and what's it being used for. So I think this way, James, it sort of simplifies the process a little bit. It gives you that, I can be in a conversation with some, say, charitable group in one of our districts. I had one that's come up recently. I've been talking to Manaia with, and it's about de-escalating dump fees, and it's getting a bit hard for them. So there's an easy way where I can say, look, I can, might be able to do something out of a meal fund for that little bit, but there's other ways we can look at it after that. So it's just about being able to get that without going through a whole process. It might take them 2 years, $300, $400, you know what I'm saying?
Stephanie's just putting something out, so I feel that we're happy with the two-step approval process.
Just check with the regard, excuse me, with regard to the two-step approval process, would that be for grants of any value, or only those over the $500 or whatever amount is specified in the policy?
Yeah.
Is there a view around that?
Yeah, I think probably my view around that would be over the 500, and I usually sort of do that by default, but I'm more than happy to formalise that more. Yeah,
because at the moment you approve and then Manaia authorises, right?
Yeah,
in terms of the actual process, but that's not an approval that he's just effectively doing. Yeah. Whereas anything over 500, you would approve and then would have somebody else.
Yeah, normally what happens is, I get an application comes in, and it's usually in an email form, ideally, like comes to so that there's a paper trail on it. That'll go, my EO will pick that up and then foot straight through to me for approval on that. And then I have to formalise that back in writing to my EO that I've approved that amount. And it comes anyway. So there's always like a paper trail. It's not like it's just a phone call and say, yeah, what you mean?
So potentially, is it more that if the application is agreed to by the mayor, the chief executive officer, or the delegate, more processes the payment rather than provides that authorization if it's under $500?
Well, two of us, usually two people agreeing for the expenditure to be approved. Yeah, versus authorised. So authorised I see as just push the button versus sense check whether it keeps me ash safe. That's my view.
Yeah.
When you push the button at the moment, are you keeping me ash safe?
I have complete faith.
Right.
That's fine. Yeah, including implemented two-step.
So we can discuss that tomorrow with that recommendation.
Yeah.
Happy?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, the feedback is included there. We're also being asked to receive both the Mayoral Fund and Mayoral Disaster Relief Fund policies. I'm moving. Could we please have a second that? We have Councillor Bruce seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. I did not expect that we would take a bit of time on that one. Well done, thank you for surprising me. And thank you, everybody, for all the work that you've done in this. We will move to item 8.11, which is gift policy. Over to you for some brief comments. And then questions.
So the main changes we've made really are to try and simplify the procedure and make it a little bit simpler for staff to follow. And as you can see, we've put a little bit more guidance in there as well in terms of helping the decision makers. So we haven't consulted with staff on this yet. We thought we would ask for your comments first, and then we'll put it out to staff with any other recommend changes made first.
Next questions? Hey, can you just speak to the one question that I had in this space, which is the coverage of elected members, should they receive a gift?
We had talked about that actually at the time when I took it to exec team, and Sandra's kindly given us some information about it. So it's actually covered in their code of conduct. There's some wording in there around not solicit, demand or request any gift, reward or benefit by virtue of their position, and notify the chief executive if any such gifts are accepted. And there's also information in the Crimes Act and Secret Commissions Act around that as well. We felt it probably wouldn't work that well to try and include that in this policy, because a lot of this is around approval from your group manager and so on. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just giving a sense of the policy is very specific that it relates to employees. So just asking a question on behalf of anybody that might consider, what does that mean for councillors? Thanks. Mayor, did you have a question?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, I was thinking about it's covered off. I think we will answer the community as well, whatever we are there, you know.
Yeah, I just think it's a good all-round policy, Kate, that provides that protection for staff and for the organisation. So, well done, I think. Yeah, that's only my feedback. I've got no real questions around.
I echo that. So well done, team. It's good to have the guidance and it's good to have the additions that you've made in that particular space. And thank you for the feedback of impact to elected members who sit separately in that space. So if I look to the recommendation, it is that the draft obviously be received and the feedback. There wasn't any feedback if any changes to that. So I'm moving. Please have a second and we get Councillor Henry seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Against. Comment carried. Thank you very much, Kate. And then we'll move to item 8.12. Welcome back, Kate.
I asked Monique to join us. Monique is a new addition to our team. She's Safety and Wellness Advisor. And of course, as you know, Lucy's away on maternity leave at the moment. So Monique has replaced Mivan, who was our previous person in that role. So great to have her on board. And unfortunately, these reports sometimes are a little bit stale by the time they come to you, and it won't be too long before we have the next quarterly report come out. I had commented on the Health and Safety at Work Act Amendment Bill. Apparently today is due to come out from Select Committee, so it'll be interesting to see whether they've taken on any of the feedback that they've been given, particularly the New Zealand Institute for Safety Management have given quite a lot of feedback around it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that lands. We're obviously continuing our focus on critical risks, and you'll be aware that we had updated our top 10 to top 12 and also now have those contributing factors. And we still have some work to do to embed those into the many different places that we will be using them. So that's going to be a work in progress. But for our monthly updates, we are trying to focus on a different critical risk each time. Interestingly, the one from February relating to sort of underground and overhead services has come up recently. Apparently, the government are looking to introduce some funding to drive technology to allow places to work a bit more collaboratively. And I assume it's around having better location of underground services, because anybody who's done any work in the road corridor knows that right across New Zealand, the services are not always able to be accurately identified or mapped. So that's great that they're looking to future-proof that a little bit. And yeah, it's going to take a little while, I think, for that to be dealt with. But they had apparently are considering that because there have been multiple incidents right across the country relating to that. And the other comment I just wanted to make is you would have seen that we were getting quite behind on our risk reviews. I have engaged, well, we have engaged a part-time resource to actually just come in and help us for the rest of the year with those in Lucy's absence to have some additional cover. So she's only started this week, but she has worked for us before in our team. So we're expecting her to get up and running really quickly and provide us some support in that area, because we really wanted Monique to focus on getting out and doing those audits and site inspections and so on. And she's been making great progress with those. And it's good. That's enough from me. Any questions?
Monique, did you have any reflections from your visit?
Overall, all my observations so far on my site visits have actually been pretty positive. There's not really been anything that's concerned me terribly much. There is probably a bit of work still to do, and I still do have a lot of sites to get around, but at this stage I think they've been going pretty well.
Thanks, Monique, and thank you, Kate. Monique, I think in our last meeting you were only days old in the organisation, yeah. So it's still here and still cracking on. Thank you.
Yeah, just Yeah, just looking at in the events report and the offensive behaviour, aggressive, threatening, appropriate. You know, on the report, you know, being the second highest, you know, it's a little bit of a concern. Is there an upward trend in that, do you think, or is it, you know, pretty much year upon year, pretty similar, or is it?
Without giving you the figures, I would say that this has been a steady issue for quite some time now, probably for a couple of years. I think we've been getting a lot of incidents coming through. In sort of July, August, what I do is run a better analysis of trends in an annual report, and that will probably give us a much clearer picture. And certainly I can dig into that particular risk in that report and give a sense of how things have been going over the last few years, which probably is the best way to look at that. Yeah. But I think the great thing is that our staff are reporting. There's no longer that culture of, oh, well, it's just part of the job and, you know, you just have to put up with it. It doesn't matter what people say. You still have to just take it. I guess, you know, we've seen a lot more reporting as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that was going to be my second question, was that, you know, or is it just a matter of that, you know, setting a culture where they're reporting it more? And it seems like that, you know, so, yeah.
I think it's a bit of both. And certainly nationally, you know, if you attend any kind of forum or webinar relating to this subject, what I'm hearing all around is that, yeah, there is more abusive behaviour directed towards local government staff.
And probably just the comment on that would be, I'm guessing too, it's probably in certain areas of our business, you know, predominantly that they come across a lot of, you know, is it possible training staff and dealing with that, maybe more emphasis on them if they're dealing with it on a, you know, hypothetically, if it's customer service or something, so is there extra training that they get as opposed to, say, potentially a librarian or something that doesn't really get into that, you know, confrontational stuff, potentially?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because we do, some of those sites where you would think there wouldn't be much of that kind of thing, sometimes there is. And so our librarians do have a little bit of a share of behaviour that's not quite okay, and our swimming pools as well, to deal with some stuff. And then, of course, we have staff who have to go out in the field and maybe doing compliance work where people can be quite unhappy about that. And so we have two types of training that we only provide to staff who are likely to be in that situation, so it's not run right across the organisation. One is a full day course for field staff, and then the other one is sort of a customer conflict one for office-based or facility-based staff. But what I'm seeing more and more, which is fantastic, is those teams are actually following up on that external training with some internal scenario-based training that's really specific to them. And I know just this week, one of the teams has done some training like that, you know, where they potentially get somebody to come in and role play for them, and they can actually practice those skills. So some really good things happening.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Cheers.
Last time we talked a little bit about fatigue, and we talked about it from the perspective whether it was actual fatigue that people will experience, or whether it was fatigue as a result of a person having a number of call-outs, which automatically results in, I think, something being raised in our system. Is it still that second one?
Yes, so we still just require it to be logged if it's more than 14 hours of work. Gathering the other bit of information that you're talking to is a little bit trickier because, of course, it's home-related factors really play into that as well. Monique's got a baby, she'll be able to attest to the fact that not all of her fatigue is work-related. You know, so it can be quite tricky to capture that. But one of the things that we do ask our managers to check with their staff is how are you actually feeling? You know, if you're actually feeling tired and we need to put some extra controls in place to support you, then we can do that.
Thanks very much for that, Kate. And then the final question I have was earlier in our agenda, we considered the staff culture survey. And so I'm not sure if you're aware, but is there anything that came out of that survey that concerns you from a health and or safety and wellness space, considering there are talks of pressure, change management, etc. So any thoughts on it?
I guess what makes me feel better about it is that we knew this was a risk. We were aware of those issues from the previous survey as well. And certainly through the process of the waters transition and the work that the executive team are doing with the organisational structure, we've been really conscious of supporting staff as best we can. And I think our leaders are really conscious of the workload pressures that people have. What we are going to do shortly is actually put out a sort of follow-up pulse survey that checking in on how people are feeling in relation to the change that's happening right now. And so moving forward, I guess to monitor how we're tracking with those things, we're going to do some shorter surveys that hopefully people will get good response rate to, because they're going to be quite quick to do.
Thank you very much for that update, Elise. If there are no further questions or comments, our recommendation is that we receive the report by moving. Could I please have a seconder? Are we have me as seconder? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. And we're going to move to the last item on our open agenda, which is 8.13. It's our work program. My understanding is, unless there are any comments from the team, we're effectively receiving this, but just letting you know that I've given feedback to the team that if there's something that we're expecting on our work program and it doesn't arrive, as an example, on page 155 of 155, we were expecting an asset management policy. So just give us a sense of why that's not coming and whether it will be coming next time, because that could have a knock-on effect for what we're considering for the next meeting. But if there are no further comments in that space, we are receiving our work program. I'm moving. Could I please have a seconder? Seconding. All those in favour, please say aye. Okay, it's carried. Thank you very much to the team that does a lot of work behind the scenes, especially Sandra, who managed to get that onto a one-pager, which I was very happy about. Team will need to move into the public excluded. So Ash is moving, and I will second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, Komana carried. So team members, if you're not supposed to be here, bye bye.